Okay, so here we go. This is going to be a fun talk. And the reason it's going to be a fun talk is because we're getting to that time of the year where everybody makes a New Year's resolution. And the number one New Year's resolution, as long as I can possibly remember, is I'm going to lose weight and get in shape. And according to all the experts, 80 to 90% of those New Year's resolutions will be abandoned between the January 12th and January 17th. So we're going to talk about how we can actually do it. And here in America, we have pretty much made losing weight to be a discipline problem. Oh, if you can't lose weight, you're just an undisciplined person. And that's not always the case. There's a lot of things physiologically that can stop you from losing weight. And we're going to talk about some of those today. I mean, do we need to make dietary changes? Yes. Do we need to exercise? Not really, to be honest with you, and we'll talk about that. But the name of the game is we need to make sure that you don't have any of these physiological things that are actually stopping you, sabotaging, I guess is a better word, to allow you to lose weight. So, all right. So 6 out of 10 Americans have a chronic disease. 4 out of 10 Americans have 2 or more chronic diseases. So this is our little elevator speech. With 60% of Americans having a chronic disease, people are wasting more and more time in doctors' waiting rooms. Tucson Functional Medicine offers health programs to get to the cause of your health issue. In this particular case, we're going to talk about what is the cause, or maybe one of the things that is one of the causes of being overweight. And why do we do that? So you can spend less time in waiting rooms and more time enjoying the quality of life that you deserve. The CDC is now saying that we spend 2 hours in driving to the doctor's office and sitting in the waiting room before we ever get to see the doctor. And that might be acceptable if we had the best health in the world, but we don't. So we're going to talk about weight loss, and we're going to talk about things that would prevent us from or sabotage us from being able to lose weight. And we're going to also talk about the absolute best diet to lose weight. I've never seen anything even come close to this. We have a patient that started the program about 3 months ago, and on the diet that we put him on, he's already lost over 50 pounds. He started at 265, I think. And I saw him this morning and he was 205. And that's in about 3 months. So it's this idea where you should only lose a couple of pounds a month so we can keep it off. That really isn't true. You can lose weight as fast as you want. The secret isn't losing weight. The secret is keeping the weight off. 99% of people that lose weight gain it all back within 12 months. So welcome. This is a fun talk because we want to remove the social stereotyping that we have in America for people that are overweight. So in the PDFs, we talked about this first one. We got a note-taking PDF to follow our presentation. I showed you that one at the very beginning. We also have a form describing how you can sign up for the free discovery appointment to see if the weight loss program that we have put together is a good fit for you. It doesn't work for everybody, and we just want to make sure. So we don't want you to have to spend any money to get the discovery appointment to find out that this might not be a good fit for you. You shouldn't have to spend money for that. So here we go. So what are the core values of our clinic here? With you, we co-create health. I cannot make you healthy. I can help you, I can guide you, but you have to make the decision to be healthy. I can't do that for you. All chronic disease has a root cause. I don't care what it is, it all has a root cause. The patient determines the outcome, not the clinician. You do not go to a doctor's office for the doctor. You go to the doctor's office for the potential of what you can get out of it. An elimination of a symptom or the resolution of a problem, whatever it may be. But you're not there for the doctor to tell you what the results are. You should be telling the doctor. The doctor actually works for you. So who's the seminar for? Someone who's looking to get to the root cause, in this particular case, of their weight issues. Someone who deeply values their time. Even though this may take a little bit more time at the very beginning, it saves you tons of time in the long run, because you're not going to do this yo-yo thing where people lose weight and people gain it back, and then they lose it and they gain it back and they lose, and that's the standard weight loss. That's the Jenny Craig, the Weight Watchers, the Nutrisystems, all that kind of stuff. And it's basically based upon calorie deprivation. And that is part of the equation. We do need to reduce calories to lose weight, but that's only a part of the equation. There's much more to it. And we've just simplified it down to point a finger at you and tell you that you don't have any discipline. Someone who's at the end of their rope. How many years have you said, no, this year's going to be different. I'm going to lose the weight and keep it off? We can do that. We can really, really do that. If you are at the end of your rope and you are ready to actually get to the bottom of what is causing your weight issues, we can do that. Someone who has witnessed the limitations of the healthcare system and weight loss programs. So what do? Well, maybe not this year because of the coronavirus, but I'm going to join a gym this year, right? I'm going to get to Weight Watchers, or I'm going to, right, all that kind of stuff. And the name of the game for this is, unless you change the underlying cause, joining a gym means that you'll be paying monthly dues for someplace that you don't go. Weight Watchers will be paying all this money. Can you lose weight on Weight Watchers? Of course you can. You can lose weight on it. Just stop eating. You'll lose weight. There's no magic formula to losing weight. The magic formula is keeping the weight off. That's the key. Someone who's proactive with their weight goals. If you expect to do exactly the same thing that you have done year after year after year, you're going to get exactly the same results that you've gotten year after year after year. So if you have not gotten the results that you want, you got to change the rules. You got to do something different. And different doesn't mean from going from Weight Watchers to Nutrisystems, and then to Jenny Craig, and then to some other diet, right? So in the next 60 minutes, we're going to cover some of the hidden things that prevent you from losing and keeping the weight off. And it's not discipline. We're going to give you some things that you can do to help with your weight loss. We're going to give you an opportunity to get to the hidden cause of weight gain and truly master them this time. So I always ask everybody the same question. Is your and your doctor's definition of health the same? Or in this case, is you and your doctor's definition of weight loss and the ability to keep it off the same? Because according to the AMA, 50% of medical doctors are obese. So somebody that's obese is not going to be able to give me good health advice or weight loss advice, I guess. If they can't do it for themselves, how in the world are they going to do it for you? So here's the actual statistics. So we talked earlier about 60% of Americans having a chronic disease. Well, the problem is, if you look at men and women together, above the age of 20, over 70%, right around 70% of American men and women are overweight or obese. And men have beaten women at this. We're way better at this than you are if you're a woman. So men, of the people above 20, we have 75% of men above 20 that are obese or overweight. Women, 67%. Okay? So, you know, we like to, well, men are superior. Well, when it comes to being fat, men are superior. There's more fat men than fat women. So here's something I thought was really fascinating. You know, well, was it easier to be thin 30 or 40 years ago? And this was a research project, and on the next page, you'll get some of the data, but it'll give you the link if you're interested in this. But they took 50,000 people, and they looked at them, And they basically found that if in 1988 versus 2006, if the people did exactly the same thing, they ate the same amount of calories, they took the same quantities of macronutrients like protein and fat, they exercised the same amount, between 1988 and 2006, people that are doing exactly the same thing are about 10% heavier today, or at least in 2006, than they were in 1988. So something has changed, and some of it is, GMOs and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of it is these hidden causes that we're going to talk about that have become much more prevalent in our society. So this is the actual study. You can read all this. I'm not going to read it to you, but down here is the actual link if you would like to go read that research. But the bottom line is people that are doing exactly the same thing today that they did back in the 80s are about 10% heavier today than they were back in the 80s, doing exactly the same things. So what are the health risks of being overweight or obese? So the official statistics are, if you're 15% above your optimal weight, you qualify to be obese. And in America, if you actually weigh what you're supposed to weigh, people think you're anorexic, because America as a rule has become so overweight that people worry about you if you're as thin as you're supposed to be. But what can it cause? It causes gallbladder disease, right? It can cause fatty liver. When I first became a doctor, if we saw fatty liver, we immediately went to alcoholism. Now, we don't even really, not that alcoholism can't cause fatty liver, but most people that have fatty liver now, it's because they're overweight. And that's what causes fatty liver. How about sleep apnea? If you're having trouble sleeping, can't sleep, maybe it's being too much weight. Cancer, heart disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes. Medicare did, I think it was Medicare, this study a few years ago, and what they found is 80 to 85% of people that have to get knee replacements or hip replacements are overweight. And so the hypothesis of this is when you're carrying extra weight around, year after year after year after year, the joints cannot support that extra weight and they wear out faster. So save your joints. So this is what, this started a few years ago and we call it fat shaming, right? And if you are overweight, we're going to make fun of you and we're going to belittle you. And on social media, we're going to, talk about how overweight people are. It's unbelievable. And we've just tied it to, well, it's your fault and I don't like it and you shouldn't be fat. And it's all discipline. And most of the time, that's part of the equation for sure. But there's a lot of times that it goes much, much, much deeper than that. And that's really the purpose of today. So exercise. This is one of these big misnomers that I can lose weight exercising. Now, if we're doing the whole package, can exercise play a part in losing weight quicker? Well, of course it can, because exercise burns calories. But there's a saying. Do you know where the abs are made? They're made in the kitchen. They're not made in the gym. Every human being on the surface of the earth has a six-pack. Everybody. The problem is it's usually covered up by several inches of fat, so you can't see the six-pack. Now, I exercise a lot. I played professional tennis. I've been an exerciser for forever. And on my Garmin watch, it keeps track. I don't know how it does all this stuff, but it keeps track of the amount of calories that I burn a day from being alive and the amount of calories I burn a day from exercise. And like I say, I exercise a lot, and the average amount of calories of my total calories in the day that I can burn with exercise is about maybe 25%. So exercise is not an efficient way to lose weight. Now, can exercise be part of a weight loss strategy? Well, of course it can. You can lose weight quicker if you're burning extra calories exercising. But if you just want to lose weight, you can do it with no exercise whatsoever. Okay, so what is weight loss? Weight loss is a reduction in percentage of body fat. And most of these programs that are calorie deprivation that people do, can you lose weight? Of course you can, but most of the weight that you're losing is water weight. So they make scales now that can actually tell you, you stand on it. We have one in our office, and when I bought it, they were expensive. Now they've got 800 gazillion of them, and you can get them on Amazon for 20 bucks nowadays that interface with an app on your phone that keeps track of it. I mean, it's incredible all the stuff it can do now. But basically, when we're looking at weight loss, we shouldn't actually be looking at the number on the scale. Because if I lose water weight, the number on the scale is going to go down. My body will get smaller. That's, there's no question about that. My clothes will fit. I'm all excited. I'm losing weight. But what you're actually losing is water weight, not actual fat. So these new scales, they have scales that can actually give you your percentage of body fat, your percentage of water weight, your percentage of muscles, it can break everything down for you. And if you've been alive longer than, 10 years, muscles burn fat. So what we're really looking at in a fat loss program is not what the scale says. That can be important, but the real key markers are the percentage of body fat and muscle mass. So what do we really want? I want my percentage of body fat to go down, and I want my muscle mass to go up. That's true weight loss. And that is something that we can maintain. If we lose a ton of water weight, as soon as you go back to eating normal food again, not, the food you buy from these programs that they sell you, you're going to gain an awful lot of this weight back because it wasn't actual weight loss. It was water weight loss. So track, if you don't have one of those scales, invest in one of those scales and start tracking your percentage of body fat and your percentage of muscle mass. Those are the real numbers that you want to monitor during a weight loss program. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the 4 hidden things that can undermine your ability to lose weight. And nobody ever talks about these things. Okay, the first one is stress. The second one is a leaky gut. The third one is what we call the mitochondria. And then the fourth one can be the brain. And like I say, we'll talk about these and the different ways that they go. So number 1 is stress. So we all know about the saber-toothed tiger, right? When we have a saber-toothed tiger in front of us, we go into what is called the fight or flight nervous system. So in medical terms, it's called the sympathetic nervous system, but that's what it is. We call it the fight or flight. When you're not in fight or flight mode, we call it the resting and digesting, or I've also heard it called the feed and breed system, and that's called the parasympathetic system. And you have to be in one or the other. There's no choice. You're either stressed and trying to stay alive by avoiding the saber-toothed tiger, or we're not worried about the saber-toothed tiger, and then our body prioritizes stuff completely different. And we'll talk about that here in just a minute. Now, to the best of my knowledge, there's no saber-toothed tigers anywhere. But what we have done in America is we have just repackaged the saber-toothed tiger. And it is now called stress and mortgages and deadline and conflict and debt and bullying and work overload and anxiety and taxes and coronavirus, right? So all we have done is repackage the saber-toothed tiger And most Americans are running away from the hypothetical saber-toothed tiger all the time. Let me ask you a question. If you wake up in the middle of the night, do you have problems getting back to sleep? A lot of that might be your saber-toothed tigers. Because once you wake up, then your brain's like start processing, how am I going to pay that bill today? I've got that dental appointment coming up tomorrow. The mortgage payment's due, and the coronavirus, I'm not making any money. And that girl was harassing me on Facebook or whatever. And it's hard to get back to sleep because our mind takes over and we can't get back to sleep. So what we have done is repackage the saber-toothed tiger. And this is an example. So in pink here is the fight or flight. And in the blue is the resting and digesting. Now here's how the body should operate. The body should be in the parasympathetic system most of the day. And we should only go into the sympathetic system when there actually is something that requires that we respond quickly. So in our modern day society, I'm driving down the road and somebody steps off the curb into my lane of traffic and I got to get stopped. And all of a sudden, we call it adrenaline, that kicks in. I get my foot off the gas, onto the brake. I got to get this car stopped before I run this person down. Another version of the saber-toothed tiger. But the problem is our sympathetic fight or flight system is working overtime all day long. And what happens is when we're in the fight or flight system, your body prioritizes survival above your brain chemicals, your sex hormones, your thyroid, your digestion, and your detoxification. And why? Because having sex or digesting food or detoxing the body isn't important when I'm running from the saber-toothed tiger. So our body prioritizes survival over the normal systems of the body. And we're going to show you one of the ways that when we're in the stress system, how the body makes its own sugar. Now, you can modify what you eat till the cows come home. And if you're stressed, your body, and who isn't stressed, okay? We are all stressed. And it's become so normal in America that people don't even consider themselves stressed anymore. It's become so normal that people say, well, I'm not stressed. Yes, you are. Now, here's what happens. Now, cortisol is one of these, what we call catecholamines. And the catecholamines is what we now term is adrenaline. Oh, the adrenaline kicked in and I had to whatever. And adrenaline is actually a European term for epinephrine. So we take that term adrenaline and we've kind of just used it as a blanket term for all of the catecholamines. But in Europe, norepinephrine, so we have epinephrine and norepinephrine. In Europe, epinephrine is called adrenaline and norepinephrine is called noradrenaline. But when you're stressed, your body kicks out cortisol from your adrenal glands. It goes to your muscles, tears your muscles down to get these amino acids, takes those amino acids to the liver. That stress response, the cortisol goes to your gut lining, takes the amino acids from that back to your liver. And what does your liver do with all these amino acids? It makes sugar. So if you're stressed and you say, I'm not eating any sugar, well, you may not be eating any sugar, but your body is making sugar like crazy. Now, you want to impress your friends? The fact that we make sugar like this is called gluconeogenesis. Gluco means sugar, neo means new, genesis means the creation of. So what we're actually doing is we're tearing our lean muscle mass down to take those amino acids to the liver. Then we're tearing our gut lining down to take those amino acids to the liver. And when we tear the gut lining down over here, what does that cause? Leaky gut. Excuse me. But we take those amino acids to the liver to create sugar, so I can send sugar to my muscles, heart, and lungs, so I can run away from that saber-toothed tiger faster. So it's a vicious cycle. So if you don't address, if this is a problem, I've never met anybody that it isn't, but we test it. We don't just guess on this. We have tests to actually run for this. And you can be sabotaging your entire weight loss system because you're stressed, you're making a bunch of sugar. One of the big things that happens with diabetics, diabetics they'll eat something. They're looking at this little list of stuff that's supposed to lower their blood sugar, and then they eat something, test their blood sugar, and it goes up. And they get frustrated. They get confused. They say, well, I don't even understand this. It's not doing what it, well, if your body's making its own sugar, what's going to happen to testing your blood sugar? You're going to have more blood sugar, and it's not because you ate it. So this is a test. It's called the Adrenal Stress Index Test. And this tells us where your stress level is. And it's not really the purpose to go over this today, but basically what we're looking at through this test is your cortisol level, because we just showed you what happens with cortisol, right? All this tearing your muscles down, tearing your gut lining down to make more sugar. But we also look at your DHEA on this test, because both of those things, DHEA and cortisol, shows us how we're reacting to stress. And our cortisol level shows us how we've been reacting to stress over a long period of time. So this isn't just a snapshot of what's going on today. This tells us what's been going on for a long time, because cortisol will get high, stays high. Why? I got to run away from the saber-toothed tiger. And this gives us an idea of how your body, how long it's been dealing with stress and how it is dealing with stress. So the first thing that we got to look at is stress, because your body's going to make sugar if you're stressed. So this can sabotage people's ability to lose weight. Number 2, leaky gut. Well, we showed you back here that we can make leaky gut from taking the amino acids from the gut lining to take it to the liver. And the gut lining is made of amino acids. So if we're taking these to make sugar with our liver, that's causing leaky gut. The other thing that leaky gut can do, it can allow pieces of food that are too large to be used by the cells, and we'll show that next. It's a whole mitochondria thing. It can cause pieces that are way too large, right? So this right here is a big piece. Let's just say it's a big piece of food, okay? And this is a tight junction. So what's supposed to happen is food is supposed to be broken down to where it gets small enough that it can pass through this space. But what happens when we have leaky guts, we got these big holes. And now these large food particles that are way too large to be used by the body can pass through here. And this is our bloodstream down here. And once it passes through into the bloodstream, it's taken to the cells to be used to convert into energy. That's why diet is so important for your health. And we're going to show you that here in a minute. But if you have leaky gut, you're not getting good utilization of this food that you're spending all this money at Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, and I'm doing healthy food. But if you have leaky gut, you're sabotaging your ability to convert food into energy. And if you don't have energy, you can't exercise. And if you don't have energy, your cells aren't going to be able to just do the normal function that they're supposed to. And leaky gut can be part of this equation. So this could be a second reason why it's super hard to lose weight, because we're not processing the food that we should be correctly. Now we have cells that don't have the energy level that they're supposed to be able to do their job. This can be something else that can undermine our ability to lose weight. We have a test for this. The third way is called the mitochondria. Now here in Tucson, we have a power plant. And that power company, I guess, is called TEP, Tucson Electric and Power. Now, every cell in your body has its own power plant. It's called the mitochondria. And all that is that's the name of the power plant in the cells that make energy. Now, if you don't live in Tucson, your power plant is not called TEP, right? I grew up in Sierra Vista, 90 miles from Tucson, but what is the power plant called up there? Unless they've changed it, it's called Sulphur Springs Co-op. I live 84 miles outside of Tucson, and my power company is called Trico. So all that is the name of the company. Now, TEP, Tucson Electric and Power, could use many different ways to make energy. It could use nuclear. It could use hydro. It could use solar. It could use wind power. It could use there's a lot of different ways to make energy. It could burn coal, right? But the name of the power plant is called TEP. So the name of the power plant in your cells is called the mitochondria. Now, how the mitochondria, what's actually fascinating, I looked this up. They estimate, there's no way to know for sure, but they estimate that we have about 30 trillion cells inside our body. That's trillion with a T, which is just way too big to even really know what it means. But we have 30 trillion, and each one of these cells has their own little power plant. Now, it's called the mitochondria and all the little cells, but you got cells in your brain. And if it's not making the energy it's supposed to, you're not going to be able to think and process information the way you're supposed to. You have cells in your muscles. And if it's not making the energies the way it's supposed to, your muscles are not going to be as strong and functioning as good as they're supposed to. You have cells in your heart. And if the cells are not making it, so you got cells everywhere. And it's all about energy. And energy in medical terms is called ATP. Okay? And so what the body does, and we'll show you this here in just a second, the body uses the food that you eat to make energy. Okay? And we're not going to talk about the respiratory chain and all that kind of stuff, that we don't have time to do stuff like that. But general rule, but here's the secret. This is the system on how we make energy. So remember, the name of the company in all your cells is called the mitochondria. How it makes energy is called the citric acid cycle. I learned it as the Krebs cycle. And this is called the electron transport chain. And between all of this stuff, this is how the body makes energy, ATP. Now, here is a magic formula. The only place that you can burn fat is in the mitochondria. If you do not bring the fats into the citric acid cycle to be burned for fuel, you store the fat. Now, we've made calories out to be these evil things, right? And all calorie is the energy potential, and I don't remember the exact formula, I have to look it up, but it's the heat that can be generated through sugar, protein, or fat to raise a certain amount of water 1 degree of temperature. That's all a calorie is. And so carbohydrates and proteins have 4 calories per gram of either sugar or protein. But fats have 9 calories per gram. And so if you have $100,000 in the bank, and I come to you and I say, hey, give me your money. You're going to say, no, that's my security. This is so I can pay bills. This is so I can continue my quality of life or my standard of living or whatever, right? Well, the body does exactly the same thing. It stores energy, and the best energy for your body to store is fat. And why? Because fat has more potential for creating energy than sugars or proteins. So your body wants to store this fat because your body works under the principle of preparing for the next famine. So guess what your body considers when you reduce calories? It doesn't know you're dieting, doesn't care. It says we're not getting enough calories to survive. So it shifts down your metabolic rate, slows down your ability to lose fat. And if you've ever dieted in your life, you know all this. This isn't the first time you've heard any of this. But the fats burning in the Krebs cycle or the citric acid cycle might be new. You might not have heard this. So fats are the most perfect fuel, but it's hard for the body to use. So it doesn't want to use fat for fuel. It wants to use sugar. And why does it want to do that? It's easy. Sugar is really, really easy to break down and utilize. Can do it really much faster. But fats, being 9 calories per gram, is a way more efficient fuel source. So it takes more energy to burn it, but it has more potential to create energy than sugars or protein. But we got to get it into the citric acid cycle, because if we don't, the body stores it. That's what it does, it stores it. So there's a magic formula for getting fat into the Krebs cycle or the citric acid cycle, and it's called carnitine. And carnitine is what brings fats into the citric acid cycle to be burned. But there's a lot of complications for this. Again, we don't have time to go through it, but we got to make sure we have enough amino acids. We got to make sure we have enough B vitamins to make this work. So if you put in carnitine, that means you can get it into here, but is this part working correctly so you can actually burn it? So it's a lot deeper than this, but not eating the right kinds of foods can cause this whole system to break down. But if you can't get fat into the citric acid cycle, you can't burn it. And if you can't burn it, your body will store it. And then it becomes like your $100,000 in the bank and you're asking the body, hey, give me your fat. And the body's saying, no, what, are you crazy? This is my security. This is my security blanket. This is the most perfect fuel. And the next time I go through a famine, and that'll be my next weight loss program that I do, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, whatever it may be, I'm going to have to use these fats because I'm not going to have enough calories. So the body does not want to surrender fat. It just doesn't. And that's why it's so difficult, because what you're asking your body to do is surrender its savings account. And if I was to ask you to surrender your savings account, you probably would say no. So there's a test. And all of this is how we are bringing fat into the citric acid cycle. This is how we're bringing sugar into the citric acid cycle. And this is how the citric acid cycle is working. So there's a test we can run to see, are we bringing fat into the system? Is the system working? So we got to know that, or we're never going to get real weight loss and be able to keep it off. So the fourth thing that can really affect us is funguses. Now, there's a lot of different funguses. The one we talk about all the time is yeast, Candida overgrowth, right? And what feeds fungus? Simple sugars. So if you have a yeast overgrowth in your digestive tract, your body is going to constantly be craving simple sugars. And how easy is it going to be for you to lose weight when all you can think about is eating simple sugars, and you think it's your weakness, and actually it's the fungus, which is demanding food all the time so it can stay alive. So if you have a fungus, that can be sabotaging your ability to lose weight because your body is constantly craving simple sugars. Now, here in Arizona, we just approved recreational marijuana. And I think there's 20 some states in America now that recreational marijuana. What THC, which is the potent part of marijuana, is a poison to the human body. And guess how the body gets rid of the poison? Simple sugars. So if you smoke a fair amount of pot, even if it's the medical marijuana and you're smoking it because of whatever. I mean, we saved my brother's eyes because of medical marijuana. We were living up in Oregon at the time, and I believe they were the first state that approved medical marijuana way back in 1996, I think. And my brother has glaucoma, and he was on the pills and the drops, and his eyes just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Well, I did some research and found out that marijuana can reduce intraocular pressure. So I got him on the medical marijuana program up there in Oregon, and he started doing medical marijuana, and my little brother can still see, which he probably wouldn't. I mean, I can't know for sure, but he probably wouldn't because his eyes just kept getting worse with the drops or the pills that the medical system gave for his eye problem. And so if you have a fungus, you are fighting a losing battle because you can't even think about eliminating sugars. And why? Because you have all these little guys in your intestinal system that is constantly causing you to crave simple sugars, and that is not good food for weight loss and a lot of other stuff too. Well, we have a test for this. We have this thing called arabinose, and this is the main yeast overgrowth marker. And we have glycolic, which is the second most common. Now, I took this off of one person's test, and look, this person has the main marker. It's high for yeast overgrowth. Here it is. But they also even have the second marker for yeast overgrowth, and it's right there. So it's going to be very, very difficult for you to lose weight and keep it off if you have a fungus, because your fungus is fungus among us. Wasn't that what we used to say? Your fungus is going to be craving simple sugars like there is no tomorrow, because it's trying to stay alive just like everything else. And it's going to cause you to crave simple sugars like there is no tomorrow. And how easy is it going to be for you to lose weight when you're eating cookies or whatever, you know, ding dongs, ho-hos. I don't even know if they still have these things. Those were really popular when I was a kid. But these are some markers that we can actually test and find out. So if we really want to get to the bottom of weight loss, the first thing that we need to do is we need to look at these things that are going to sabotage your ability to lose weight. Because if you've got 2 or 3 of these, your weight loss journey is going to be nearly impossible. And then we're going to look at you, all of us public people, and we're going to think, well, that person just doesn't have the discipline to do that. And rarely is that the case. Rarely is that the case. Most of the time, people that can't get weight off and keep it off is because of these underlying health problems. So let's talk about the ketogenic diet. Now, about 4 or 5 years ago, I had all these people asking me questions about this ketogenic diet. And I didn't know it. I mean, I read about it and I could talk to them about it from a knowledge point of view, but I never went through it. So I went on the ketogenic diet. I think it was for 5 or 6 months. I went through the keto flu. I did all this kind of stuff. But this is by far the fastest way to lose weight. It's also being used as the standard treatment now for diabetes. It's being used for dementia and Alzheimer's. So we're talking about brain function. And we'll talk about why on those in a minute here. But the ketogenic diet is causing the body, let's go back here real quick. It's causing the body to burn fat for fuel, not sugar for fuel. Now, the body doesn't want to do this. The body is just like me, lazy. And the body wants to do the least amount of work it can to make energy. And fat is a lot of work, so it doesn't want to do that. But if we really want to get rid of fats, we need to be burning this for fuel. Now, we talked about this. Ketogenic diet is being used to treat diabetes, brain function. 90% of the human brain is made out of fat and cholesterol. Diabetics, it's all blood sugar. Well, ketogenic diet, there's almost no sugar in the diet. And for 40, 50 years, we were taught low fat, high carbs. And look at America. We are fatter than we have ever been, ever. So is this philosophy working? Not at all. This low fat, high carb diet that the government has been pushing and the medical system has been pushing on us for 40, 50 years, it isn't working. We're fat. 50% of NDs are fat, right? And the other big thing that it's used for, that's what we're going to talk about today, is weight loss, right? So I'm in the process of filming a bunch of little 10-minute movies. I think there's going to be 5 or 6 of them, all about different aspects of the ketogenic diet. Some of the stuff we talked about, we're going to talk about ketoacidosis, which a lot of these quote experts on the internet are telling you that you have to be careful with on the keto diet. And that's couldn't be farther from the truth. But they created a high fat diet way back in the 1920s. And they did it for epileptic seizures. So it's been used in hospital settings since the 1920s for epileptic seizures. It's not dangerous if you follow the rules. If you don't follow the rules, it can be dangerous. That's why what we have put together to help you with this is a 3-month program to guide you through this ketogenic diet and make sure that you understand how to adhere to the rules. Because we now have people that have been on the ketogenic diet for 5, 6, 7 years now. So we have a little bit of longevity with this diet, and they're not having any problems as long as they stay with the rules of the diet. So that's why we have put this program together to walk you through it. Losing weight is easy, but then human nature, people relax. And when people relax, they fall off the rules, and that's when we start having problems. And there are some people that can't be on the ketogenic diet, right? I mean, it can be hard on your kidneys. So, we got to make sure that your kidneys are able to handle this. Most people's it is, but every once in a while we meet somebody who's not. So in your PDF handouts, one of the PDF handouts was how to book your free discovery appointment, either in the office or on Zoom with me, about whether this ketogenic diet is a good fit for you. It's not for everybody, okay? But I've never seen anything allow you to lose weight faster, ever. So we need to decide this year, how are you going to age?
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide.
So this was actually put together by the Canadian health system up there. Because in Canada, they've got the same problem we do. As people get older, their quality of life is going away. They've got all these diseases. They weigh too much. They're wearing their joints out, all this type of stuff. But here's the great part. You can make a decision how you age. You don't have to age the way the system tells you have to age. You can age the way you want to age. And remember, a few slides ago, we showed you all the things that are caused from being overweight. And if you're overweight, you're feeding heart attacks and strokes and joint problems and diabetes, all these different things. And that's the guy on the right here, right? That's the same guy, but the guy on the right is not aging well. I did 6 months in hospice, and it didn't matter what race the person was, sex the person was, the age of the person, none of it mattered. Do you know what everybody regretted in hospice? The number one thing, never heard anybody say it different. They regretted that they didn't spend more time on their health before they got to hospice. That's what everybody regretted. And this is a way to take control of your health. right? This is a way for you to actually start with one aspect of health, which is a huge part of the equation, how much you weigh. If you weigh too much, is going out exercising a possibility for you? Not really. And then we need to understand what exercise really is and whether that's even an option for you at this point in the ball game. There's a lot of people that exercise isn't even an option based upon their stress level and all that kind of stuff, but we would go through all that with you. Okay. So basically, what are your next steps? You got to decide that this year will be different. I mean, everybody does that. Oh, this year I'm going to lose that weight and I'm going to get in shape. But they don't actually set themselves up for success. So what they do is they say, well, I'm going to join a gym this year. That's why it'll be different. Or I'm going to, I did Jenny Craig a while back and I lost weight, but I gained it all back. So I'm going to join Weight Watchers this year or whatever, right? I don't want to pick on just those. It's any diet program. But in your PDFs is one of the handouts, shows you how you can go in online, or you can call our office and you can book your weight loss discovery appointment. And you can come into the office or you can stay home and we can do it through Zoom, just like what we're doing this webinar. And what we can do is walk you through an understanding of what our program does, how it works, and then we have 3 months to where we actually walk you step by step through these programs to make sure that you have the ability to be successful. You've got to start stacking up things on the positive side of the scale for you. And how about we make 2020 has been a pretty crappy year. How about we make 2020 a catalyst to actually begin our health journey? Right? Let's end 2020 on a positive note. This has been, not a good year, as you're well aware. So the name of the game is we can use this 2020 and we can make it a catalyst so that we actually end this year on a totally different trajectory on where we're headed with our health. I always say, let's show them this year. People won't even tell people they're going on a diet anymore because everybody fails all the time and you just don't want to be confronted with it. Let's do it and actually make it happen. So I always ask this question, will this year be different? Or will you be at the end of 2021 watching this webinar again so that you can do the weight loss? I mean, everybody's looking for the magic bullet. And unfortunately, there is no magic bullet. If there was, I'd be selling it. But how many emails do I get a day saying, you can lose 10 pounds a day or lose weight by drinking this before you go to bed? And what are they doing? They're selling you imaginary hope. I'm not here to sell you hope. What I'm here to sell you is a strategy, a philosophy, a way of you taking control of your